and welcome back to my channel if you've been here before. If not, welcome. My name's Ashley and I'm going to be doing my July TBR today. I very actively want to start reading down my TBR on Goodreads. I use Goodreads mostly to flag books that I'm interested in, so I want to actually start reading those books. I feel like during the month I kind of get carried away. I'm definitely a big mood reader. I definitely read out of comfort a lot, and that causes me not to follow my TBR, and it also causes me to never pick up the books that I'm actually like interested in and anticipating. So I want to work on that starting this month. Because of that, I basically just went through my TBR and chose a bunch of books that I feel like I either currently have interest in or I had interest in at some point in time. If the book isn't like outrageously like problematic to me in terms of the synopsis, I'm definitely going to pick it up this month. That being said, some of them I'm not sure if I'm going to love. They've been on my TBR for years in some cases, and I don't feel like I'm the same type of reader I was years ago. Let's see. So the first one I want to read is actually a pretty current book. It's Lost in the Neverwoods by Aiden Thomas. I read Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas and really enjoyed it. It's very clear to me that the level of writing they have is not only strong, but it really opens up the world for this really fantastical type of writing and fantastical type of like world building, which I really enjoy. I have suggested like Cemetery Boys to so many people, including students, and they've all really enjoyed it. So now I want to pick up Lost in the Neverwoods. I particularly am not a huge like Peter Pan fan or anything. I definitely kind of like the Neverland Fairies, but I end there. I don't really have a connection to Peter Pan or Hook or anything like that. So this is going to be like a really interesting retelling for me, and maybe will be something that I enjoy more than the original like text and lore of it all. But apparently it says it's been 5 years since Wendy and her two brothers went missing in the woods. But when the town's children start to disappear, the questions surrounding her brother's mysterious circumstances are brought back into light. Attempting to flee her past, Wendy almost runs over an unconscious boy lying in the middle of the road and gets pulled into the mystery haunting the town. Peter, a boy she thought lived only in her stories, claims that if they don't do something, the missing children will meet the same fate as her brothers. In order to find them and rescue the missing kids, Wendy must confront what's waiting for her in the woods. And that just sounds amazing. I've definitely been picking up more YA books that I've been enjoying recently. So I'm really hoping that this is another one that I like. It's definitely sounding like a mix of both fantasy and mystery, which is something I really have been enjoying lately. I also already own this on Libro FM, so that's perfect. The next one is Convenience Store Woman. This is one of the books that has been on my TBR for a really long time. So basically, there's a 36-year-old Tokyo resident. She's never really fit in, whether it be in like her family, school, like the world around her, and she ends up getting this job at the Hiromachi branch of Smile Mart, and she really just delves really deep into her job. That becomes her like personality. She starts getting kind of like pushback from like her families and friends and people around her, basically saying like, you're pretty old, it's time for you to start finding like a life outside of this job, like hobbies, like marriage, a proper career. And she's basically dealing with all of that because she feels like this is the one place that she has been able to fit in. So that seems like a really interesting read. It's shorter, so I'm interested to see how it goes. But I'm hoping that the pacing is really good and the story really hits me in the feelings. Then another pretty recent book is Dial A For Aunties. So this is equal parts murder mystery and rom-com apparently, and it dives deep into Chinese Indonesian culture. Apparently she ends up accidentally killing her blind date, and her mom ends up asking help from her aunts to get rid of the body, but it actually ends up being more challenging. It seems definitely to be like a situation where they're dealing with circumstance after circumstance after circumstance that might be pretty hilarious in terms of how to get rid of the body and dealing with all of this. So that seems to be really fun and enjoyable. I read a cozy mystery lately, and I really, really enjoyed it. So I am definitely more open to reading genres that I wouldn't necessarily pick up. And I definitely do enjoy murder mystery tropes and plots and games. So I'm hoping that this will be a good and fun read. For my last Shakespeare of the year, because I was supposed to read 4, and this is going to be my 4th, I'm going to read King Lear. And I know I've seen this live before, but I don't remember the plot, and I haven't read the original text at any point. So this is basically King Lear divides his kingdom among 2 of his daughters who flatter him and banishes the 3rd one who loves him. And his elder daughters both reject him later at his homes, and he starts to go mad, wandering through a storm. Basically, it's supposed to be like this tragic, like, moral tale about action speaking louder than words, and how words don't necessarily mean everything. So that seems really fun. I definitely love when Shakespeare makes one of his characters go mad, so that'll be really entertaining for me. I recently read Hamlet, so I'm hoping that I enjoy King Lear. The next one I'm going to be reading, I'm reading Their Eyes Were Watching God. I don't really know much about the text, and even the synopsis here is pretty short. It says, fair and long-legged, independent and articulate, Janie Crawford sets out to be her own person. No mean feat for a black woman in the 30s. Janie's quest for identity takes her through 3 marriages and into a journey back to her roots. This is a pretty short, like, classic book, but a lot of my friends who are people of color, specifically black, definitely enjoyed this in terms of the classics they had to read in high school, and it's something that I would love to pick up. I've been reading a lot of traditional classic pieces, and a lot of them center white characters or white authors and their storytelling, so it'd be nice to branch out more and get a different perspective, especially in terms of race in the 1930s. I definitely have learned recently that I love learning about 1930s America. There was just so much going on during that time period, and a lot of it was horrific to read and experience if you were alive during that time period, so it'd be really interesting to pick this up and see what's going on. Then I'm going to be reading Less by Andrew Sean Greer, I believe. And basically, he's a failed novelist. He's about to turn 50 years old, and he gets a wedding invitation from his ex-boyfriend, who's now engaged to someone else. And he basically starts to freak out. He doesn't want to show up because he feels like it might look a little pathetic, but he also doesn't want to say that he can't go without a reason. So he ends up basically accepting all of these different conventions, I believe it is, around the world. So he ends up going around the world in 80 days to Mexico, Italy, Germany, Morocco, India, Japan, just to basically distance himself from this awkward situation and all the problems he feels like is coming up in his life. But I think while he's on the trip, he kind of finds himself and might find a love interest. So that's really sweet. I definitely want to read more books about older characters falling in love and older characters having their own, like, coming of age story, because I feel like we're developing constantly as people, not just like when we're teens. And especially having a older character who's queer, I'm definitely very excited to read that. Hoping I love it. I need to read this one first because I do have it out on Libby, and I need to give it back within like a week, so that will be my first read of July most likely. And then my last book, this is the oldest book I have on my TBR in terms of romance. I don't know if I'm going to like this anymore because I have said before I hate a romance where somebody is somebody else's salvation, and it seems like this is what's going on heavily in this book. But it's Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan, and it says, when Bree Prescott arrives in the sleepy lakeside town of Pelion, Maine, she hopes against hope that this is the place where she will find the peace she so desperately seeks. On her first day there, her life collides with Archer Hale, an isolated man who holds a secret agony of his own, a man no one else sees. Right? There alone, I'm like, okay, cool, love a good damaged hero. But then it continues on. And it says, it's a story of a woman chained to the memory of one horrifying night and the man whose love is the key to her freedom. It is the story of a silent man who lives with an excruciating wound and the woman who helps him find his voice. It is the story of suffering, fate, and the transformative power of love. And then that kind of loses me. So I don't know if I'm going to love it, but it's been on my TBR for so long that I definitely want to pick it up. And I have it available both in ebook format and audiobook format on several different like apps that I like subscribe to and everything. So we're gonna read it. I'm hoping I enjoy it, but my hopes are not high. But this is about reading down my TBR, so we're gonna do it anyway. That being said, I definitely have two other like different TBRs that I am going to be reading in terms of July because I'll be doing Summerween, and I also want to do kind of like an extended series of me working down my TBR, so those videos will be up at some point. Otherwise, that is like my priority reads for July. Thank you for being here. If you've been listening this entire time, give it a thumbs up if you would like, subscribe if you want to. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.